Hello everyone, welcome to my session. I hope you are enjoying all the sessions in Data Platform Summit. Thanks to Amit and team for this wonderful effort. Thanks to our sponsors. My session is about SAP Business Objects to Power BI migration. I have worked with multiple migration projects, so I'm going to share my experience and I'm going to help you to understand and how you can approach your migration projects. About myself, I'm Hariharan, in short Harry. I'm a Microsoft MEP in Data Platform. I'm also a Microsoft Certified Trainer. So I have presented many sessions about Power BI across different conferences and summits. I usually write articles about Power BI, so you can check at dataap.org. And I'm also running a YouTube channel called Hari's BI. In case if you want to reach me for any queries, you can reach me through LinkedIn or Twitter. So these are my social network handles. So this is a recorded session, but let us try to be interactive. So we can use this chat window to communicate. So I have few set of questions for you to answer. So it will be very helpful for me to understand about my audience. So just explain are you currently working on any SAP Business Objects reports to Power BI migration projects, or you already worked earlier? So if you worked, say yes or no. And can you also share your experience about your migration projects, or also let me know if you are just starting the migration projects. I have designed this whole session for both Power BI and SAP BO professionals. The agenda for the session, I'm going to talk about the migration approach and how you can prepare yourself for the migration projects. And most of the time I'll be spending on how the architecture of SAP BO, how the functionality, how the semantic layer and how it works, and how you can convert the reporting features into Power BI, and within Power BI what is the right option to match with your SAP BO reporting features, and also some of the considerations, and finally I'll be leaving some of the resources for you. Let us try to understand how we can approach the migration projects. So as we are dealing with SAP BO and Power BI, so these two are two different technologies, two different platforms. So we don't have an automated tool or a built-in tool available to help us to convert the SAP BO reports to Power BI. So basically we have to build these reports in Power BI from the scratch. So we need to understand the business logics, the data model, the reports from SAP BO, and we need to reproduce the same in Power BI. Right. So when we talk about this approach, right, we need to understand one of the main pain point. Since it is a kind of a legacy platform, SAP BO or any legacy tool, right? Most of the time, the reports that we built in the legacy platform is used to export the data from the reporting layer, and it will be used further in Excel for the next level of analysis. Right? So when users are moving to Power BI or a modern BI platform, right? So we need to ask the users to use the platform. Use the report, the interactive reports, rather than exporting the data again from the Power BI platform to the Excel and do the further analysis. So if they have certain a set of requirements on the exporting scenario, if they are doing some analysis, we need to understand what they are doing currently on the Excel, and we need to reproduce the same logic in Power BI so that we can help them to use the Power BI interactive reports rather than export and then do further manual analysis. And we also understand the technical difficulties. So when I say technical difficulties, like what are the features are really used in SAP BO reports. So we have a lot of features in SAP BO, but we need to understand what are those features are applied on each report. So at least high level, what are those features? So you need to have the list ready. And then if this migration is triggered by the business users, then it will be very easy for us. And then if that is the case, sometimes we will get the new enhancements on the existing report. So we need to accommodate that as part of the migration project. And if the whole project is triggered by the IT team because of the licensing cost or the support to the product is ending, right? If that is the case, sometimes the business users may not convince to use the Power BI reports or any modern BI platform. The reason would be like business users like they may used with SAP BO reports. So I have seen business users using SAP BO reports for more than 5 and 10 years, right? So if they are having experience 10 years in a tool, so they know each and every corner of the tool, the features, so they can go to the report, they can edit themselves, and they can subscribe it, so they can do anything within that platform because they are familiar with the tool. So it is very difficult to adapt them and ask them to use the new BI platform. So we need to convince those set of business users, right? So usually it is not just a single group of users who are going to use this SAP BO and tomorrow they are going to use Power BI. So there will be a different set of business groups or business users, right? So we need to split them into different groups, like that will help us to see like how easily we can adapt or we can convince the business users to Power BI. So the first group might be like, let's say if they are interested to use the modern BI platform, right? So it is very easy to convince them, like we can show the Power BI features, right? The next group might be like since they are familiar with SAP BO reports, they need all the exact features in the modern BI platform. So in this case it is Power BI. So if there are features in SAP BO reports, they might look the same feature in Power BI. So we need to make sure we have the features exist in Power BI. If not, we need to make sure we have some workarounds for them. Then only they will be convinced and they will be start using Power BI reports. And sometimes some of the business users they use just the report to extract the data and do further analysis in Excel. So we can really convince them because we have some set of features in Power BI like analysis in Excel, right, or paginated report, export requirement, subscriptions, right? So we need to highlight those features and we need to ensure like whatever you are doing currently with the help of SAP BO reports, the same will be available in Power BI. So that's how we need to segregate the business users or business users groups, and we need to really target each group and convince them to use the modern BI platform. How to measure a successful migration approach? So there are various factors that which are involved to measure the migration approach, whether it will be success or failure. So I have highlighted some of them, right? So the main point is like we need to match the exact feature in Power BI or any modern BI platform. So if the features are not available in platform, as I mentioned, we need to have the workaround ready. So if we are not able to match the features, then it is very difficult to get success on the migration projects. And also we need to make sure we are matching the timeline, because based on the timeline there will be further discussions on the licensing, extending the licensing, the current licensing, and also the other informations, right? So we need to make sure we are going to achieve the timeline when we think of these migration projects. And also high adoption rate. So we need to convince the business users, as I mentioned. So if most of the business users are convinced to use Power BI, then yes, it will be success. And again, we need to have a proper training in place, because they are SAP BO users. So we need to help them to understand how Power BI works and what are the navigation. So we need to have a detailed training to the business users, maybe multiple sessions to them, so that they will be comfortable with the Power BI reports. And finally, if the customers are happy, yes, obviously the whole migration project is considered as a successful migration project. So let me talk about how you can prepare yourself for the migration projects. So you need to understand how many reports that you are going to target for the migration. So and then you need to understand how many semantic layers or data models are involved. And then you need to see whether any add-ins or any metadata extractors are available in SAP BO, which will help you to extract the data from SAP BO repository. So that will give you an idea like how many reports, how many semantic layers or the data models, how many users are accessing the reports. So sometimes you may have 100 reports, but not 100 reports are used by the business users. So if you have the activity log or some kind of audit information from SAP BO reports, that will help you to rationalize how many reports you really need to target on the Power BI side. And then as I mentioned earlier, let's just understand the functionalities used on the report. So either you can connect with the business users what they really need in a high level, or you can connect to the SAP BO development team who build the BO reports and ask them what kind of a functionality they have implemented on this set of reports. So make sure you list them and see what is the matching functionality in Power BI. And as we are targeting to the modern BI platform, so we need to understand different layers, right? So that will help you to decide where you have to spend more time, where you have the lack of functionality or features, and you can decide accordingly. And let's start with the semantic layer, because that's a source for the reports or dashboards, right? So in modern Power BI, so you have the concept called in-memory, which we don't have in SAP BO, right? So BO usually work like a direct query. So whenever user runs the report, the query will be sent back to the underlying database, and then results will be fetched back and displayed in the report. That's how the BO report works. We don't have the in-memory concept, whereas Power BI has an in-memory and also a direct query. So based on the business requirement, we need to decide whether we have to go with import or a direct query. But the recommendation from Microsoft side is we need to use import for the better performance. And again, we need to understand the exact business requirement, whether they need a real-time data or they are okay to have the near real-time data, or they are not going to refresh the data very regularly. So based on that, you can decide how you can set up the connectivity mode and what kind of data sources that they are handling. So all will be comes under the semantic layer. And then the next section is report and dashboards. So we need to understand, do we have any visuals in SAP BO which is not there in Power BI, and if it is yes, then how we can match those visuals. So do we have any built-in visuals or custom visuals? So we need to check those points, and what are the KPIs are there in SAP BO reports, and how those KPIs can be reproduced in Power BI, and what kind of slicers, parameters, filters are involved in SAP BO, and whether we can achieve the same in Power BI. So you just split that area into report and dashboard sections. And then finally the consumption layer, right? So once we have the reports and dashboards are ready, right? So this is where like how we are going to expose those reports to the business users, like and how we are providing an access to the business users, whether they are just business users or they are acting as a power user as well. So we need to handle the access management and what is there in SAP BO, or you can have a call or discussion with the BO administrator and understand how this can be implemented in Power BI. And also the other important features like subscriptions. So do they have any subscriptions enabled in their reports, SAP BO reports, and what kind of exporting requirement that they have on the reports. So if you split these areas, and you can easily identify where you have to spend time, like a kind of a R&D, and if anything is missed out, how those can be fulfilled with the workarounds. Let's talk about the architecture. So we have a detailed architecture in SAP Business Objects, but I'm not covering that because I just targeting this whole architecture just for the migration perspective. So I'm just going to feed you just a very basic information which is very enough for this whole session or this migration project. So like any other BI platform, right? SAP Business Objects has a connectivity to different data sources, right? And there is an application called Information Design Tool. So using this application, we are going to build the semantic layer for SAP BO. So we have data federation engine and we have a data foundation layer. Within this layer, we are going to choose the tables from the connection, that underlying databases or views or calculated tables. We are going to relate the tables. We are going to create a relationship using primary key and foreign key. On top of that, we are going to build the business layer, so where we can create different folders, business naming conventions, and then creating a calculated field, expressions, so on. So we can create everything in the business layer, and finally that can be deployed to the repository. From there, the visualizations tool like web intelligence, crystal reports, dashboards can be connected to this semantic layer, the data model, and the reports can show the data in a different visuals. So this is the high level architecture. So in this architecture, the main applications are information design tool, that is a tool to build the semantic layer or the data model, and then various visualization tools will connect to the data model. And this is the Power BI architecture. So here I have placed all the Power BI objects just for an understanding purpose. So here we have a tool called, or application called Power BI Desktop. So using Power BI Desktop, we can connect to different data sources. We have plenty of data connectors available. So we can connect to data sources on premises or cloud, and we can build the data model. And once that is done, we can publish that as a Power BI data set. Using Power BI dataset, we can create reports, right? So on top of reports, we can create dashboards. So other than that, if you see the Power BI service, the cloud platform, right? So here you have paginated report. So if you are creating a paginated report, you can deploy that into Power BI service, and that can be shared to the business users. And we have a data flow concept, data mart. So these are the different objects or features which we have in the Power BI portal. And once the reports, dashboards are ready, we can create an app that is called a Power BI app, and that can be shared to the business users. So business users can access that Power BI app, which is nothing but a collection of reports and dashboards, and they can view it in the mobile or a tablet or the desktop or laptop, right? And all of these are working through the Azure Active Directory authentication. Let's talk about semantic layer in detail. So semantic layer in SAP Business Object is called Universe. In Power BI, it is called Power BI Dataset. The previous term usually like Power Pivot or Power BI Data Model. So SAP BO Universe. So this is a screenshot of that information design tool that I covered in the previous architecture slide. So with this tool, we can create the universe. So there are different layers are there. So first we need to create a connections, and then using the connection we are going to create the data foundation layer. So if the connection is to Azure SQL, so within the data foundation layer we can choose the Azure SQL database tables, views, and you can still create a calculated tables within this data foundation layer. So these are different tables or views, and these are connected through foreign key, primary key and foreign key relationship. So all the relationship will be established in the data foundation layer. And then the next layer is the business layer. Layer. In that we can create different folders, because you can see multiple tables are there. So we need to really understand which field coming from which table. So that's where we can have the business folders created with the proper business naming convention, and with that we can still create some of the business logics as a calculated field or a measure. And once that is done, once that universe is created, that universe will be deployed to the repository. From there we can start build the reports. So most of the time in SAP BO it will be like a web intelligence report. So web intelligence report will connect to this universe, and it will extract the subset of the data from this whole universe, and then it will allow you to create different visuals. When you come to Power BI side, the semantic layer is called Power BI Dataset. So here again kind of a similar steps. So you're going to connect to the data sources. As I mentioned, you're going to use Power BI Desktop to connect to different data sources. So we have a layer called Power Query. So within Power Query you have option to connect to different data sources, and you have option to do the transformations in case if your data is not cleaned, not in proper shape. You can use Power Query to do the transformations. Once everything is done, you can load that data into the data model, and using the relationship tab, you can create the relationship between the tables like this. So again, it is through a primary key and foreign key relationship. And then you can set up the cross filter directions, like how you want to filter the data. Like usually it will be from dimension tables to the fact table. So you can set up everything in the Power BI desktop itself. And once everything is done, in case if you need RLS, row level security, you can create them in the Power BI desktop, and you can deploy that into Power BI service, and you can consume that Power BI dataset as a source for multiple reports or dashboards. So approach to the semantic layer. So here in SAP BO, the universe, right? So universe can have multiple tables. So I have seen universe with more than 100 plus tables, right? So if you directly compare this with Power BI dataset, so you should not convert one universe to one dataset, right? So if the universe tables are less, you can think of to create one universe to one dataset, 1:1. But most of the time it will not be the case in BO, right? So universe will have a huge number of tables, and SAP BO does not have a concept called in memory. So it is the relationship that we define in the data foundation layer or the business layer, or just a metadata. So that's the reason we can connect to multiple tables in SAP BO universe, and multiple relationships also can be established. And whenever we run the report, at that time it will create a query, and only that query will run against the underlying database. Your whole universe tables is not going to run when you create a report. Whereas here in Power BI dataset, right? So either import or a direct query, right? So you need to choose the number of tables and how many rows that you want to use it in the reporting layer. Right, so there are different considerations. So that is the reason I am recommending don't try to do 1:1 or 1:1, like one universe to one dataset. So try to split that universe into multiple line of business, or maybe you can categorize the list of reports. So based on that, you can create multiple Power BI datasets. And always use import. That's a recommendation, because when you store the data in the memory, it will be super fast, so the performance wise it will be good. And use direct query in case if you are trying to handle huge amount of data, and if you have the real-time data requirement. And also set up the incremental refresh in case if you are trying to handle millions of data, billions of data. Even with the import mode, you can set up the incremental refresh, which will help you to reduce your data refresh timings. And you still have the row level security option in the Power BI side. So if you have anything implemented in SAP BO, you can still apply, or you can still create the same in Power BI. And you can create the datasets and publish it, and consider that as a shared dataset. And on top of that, you can start create multiple reports. Okay, let's see how it works, the SAP BO. Right, so I already covered some of the steps, but still again quick. So you're going to create a universe using information design tool, right? So universe can have multiple data sources, can have multiple tables, 50, 100, even more than that. And then once you created the universe, you are going to publish that into the repository. So whenever you start consume that universe from the web intelligence report, so you are going to drag and drop what are the fields that you need for that report. Whenever you drag and drop, behind the scenes it is going to create a SQL statement. So this SQL statement will be created based on the relationship established on the data foundation layer, right? So if the relationships are complex, if it is involving multiple tables, when you see the query generated by the report, it will be more complex. So each report will have different SQL statements, which is nothing but a subset of that whole universe, SAP BO universe. And one universe can serve multiple reports, like how we have in Power BI. So one shared data set, Power BI data set can serve multiple reports. Same here. And as I mentioned, universe will not store the data, so that's the reason we can add a number of tables, whereas in Power BI it will be like an import or a direct query. And then since it is kind of a direct query, right, whenever we are going to run the report, so almost all the time the report will have the parameters. So using that parameters we are going to filter down the data, and whenever we run the report, the parameters will be pop up. Once you apply it will filter down the data in the database itself. Only the selected amount of data will be coming to the reporting layer. And in web intelligence report, you can have multiple sources in a report. So when I say multiple sources, it can be multiple universe or one universe with different queries, right? One universe can have multiple tables, right? That's what I mentioned. So when I say multiple data sources in reporting layer, so let's say there is a universe called test. So within that universe you can create one query called query 1 with selected fields. You can have one more query called query 2 with a different set of fields, right? So you are pointing to one universe. So that is possible in SAP BO. Or you can connect query 1 to one universe, query 2 to another universe, right? So which means one report can have multiple data sources. How Power BI works, you might have like we can create a data set, either a import or a direct query, and even you can use a live connection, like in case if you are referring Azure analysis services or SQL Server analysis services, then we are going to use a live connection and data will be stored in memory. So in that case, if you have n number of tables, if you are trying to use import, you need to make sure check the size of those tables. So otherwise your PBX size or the model size will be huge, then it may not be able to accommodate within the licensing that you have, the premium capacity. And also Power BI supports composite models. So when I say composite models, you can connect multiple data sources, like one is Excel and another source is SQL Server. Within that one table, let's say product table, can be import mode, and then the sales table can be a direct query mode. So you can have these combinations, so that is called composite model. So you have option to combine these connectivity modes together and create a relationship which is considered as a composite model in Power BI. Let me quickly show you a quick demo how to build the data model in Power BI. So I'm using Power BI desktop. So this is a tool to create the Power BI data sets or data model, and also create a reports, right? So here you have different options, like first option is get data. So this is where you are going to see the list of data connectors which are available, and you can choose what is your source. So based on that you are going to provide the credentials and other information. So once you connected to the source, let's say you are connecting to the SQL Server. So in SQL Server you can choose what are the tables that you really need for the reporting, right? So I just selected 3 or 4 different tables: product category, subcategory, and then fact sales. So here within this Power Query editor window you have option to do the transformations. So these are the different GUI based transformation steps which you can apply for the table, and make sure your table is cleaned and available for the reporting, right? So once you have done everything within this layer, Power Query editor layer, so once you click close and apply, those table will be loaded into the data model. So this is the place where you are going to create the relationship, right? Because you are going to use this table for the reporting. So you can drag and drop one of the column from product table. Let's say you have the color column and you have the sales amount column, in fact sales. So when you drag and drop the field from here and again field from the fact, so if you want to see the correct result, then you need to establish the relationship between the tables, right? So here again it is going to be based on the primary key and foreign key relationship. You can just select the column and just drag and drag and drop on the same column on the foreign key, and it will create a relationship. So within that relationship you can see like which column is used, that will be highlighted as a gray color. And then here you can see the cardinality, like whether it is a single side or many side, and also it will show the cross filter direction, either from a single direction or you can still change it to both direction. So this is the place where you have to spend time to build the relationship and build the proper data model. So once you have done, right, you can start creating the measures for your business logics. So one of the measures, the simplest measure is, I just created a measure called sales amount, that is called total sales. So you can name anything as a measure, and then you can start using the DAX language to create the measures. So once everything is done, that's all. So we have these tables for the reports, and we also created the measures for with the business logics, and we can publish this into Power BI service. In case if you want to create a row level security, so you have option called manage roles. Within that you can start creating a roles with either static row level security or dynamic row level security, right? So once everything is done, you can publish it, and it will be published into the Power BI workspace, right? Let me show you that. So this is the workspace. So demo area, once you published, you can see that dataset is available here with the name Contosa Sales. So this is how you need to build the Power BI dataset, which is nothing but a semantic layer in Power BI. So again, as I mentioned, you should not convert one to one, like one universe to one Power BI dataset. So just see how you can categorize them and take only the certain tables from one universe and then create the dataset. Next we'll talk about reporting and consumption layer. So this is the place where I really need to spend more time, because this will decide whether you can match or map the features of SAP BO into Power BI. So if you see from SAP BO perspective, these are the high level or unique features which you can see in most of the reports, most of the web intelligence report. So one is a parameter, input control, merge dimensions, sections, custom layout, multiple pages, export to Excel, subscriptions. When you see some of these lists, right, some of them will be directly available in Power BI, so which are good for us, and some of them might be SAP BO specific naming conventions. So we need to understand these features first, what it is doing in SAP BO, so that we can relate what is there in Power BI, right? So let's talk about this list of functionalities one by one, right? So let's talk about the parameters. So if you see the parameters, as I mentioned earlier, like we have a direct query concept in SAP BO. So usually all the reports will have the parameter to restrict the data, right? So if you see from Power BI perspective, we have a parameter. So Power BI desktop has a parameter, but that is not equivalent to this parameter, because this parameter is exposed to the business users. So business users can filter down the data, whereas that Power BI parameter is not going to be exposed to the business users, right? So but we need to see how this can be converted in Power BI, right? So we can use the slicers. Once we imported, we can use the slicers to match the parameters. And then the input controls, something like, again, a kind of a slicer. I will explain in detail. And again, I have a demo for some of these functionalities, so I will cover in detail during the demo. Choose the right option. So one point I need to highlight, so if you go to a migration project, especially this SAP BO to Power BI, or most of the time any legacy BI platform to Power BI or modern BI, right? So most of the reports are going to fit into the pixel perfect reporting requirements. So when I say pixel perfect reporting, like most of the reports in SAP BO will be like a table or matrix with different or custom layouts with each individual cell will have a different or specific formula, right? So which is difficult to handle in Power BI because Power BI table visual or matrix visual has a limitation, right? We cannot create a custom layout in Power BI desktop. So if you want to fit that SAP BO reports, then you have to check for the alternate option in Power BI. So within Power BI, we have two different tools or two different set of reports. One is pixel perfect reports or paginated reports. The another one is interactive reports. So when I say interactive reports, whatever you develop using Power BI desktop, those are considered as interactive reports because that report will have different set of visuals. You can easily do a cross filter. I mean, you can easily interact one visual, so based on that interaction the other visual will react and filter down, right? So that is called interactive reports. So whatever you build in desktop, Power BI desktop, those are interactive reports. So we have another application called Power BI report builder. So using that tool you can build the Power BI paginated reports or pixel perfect reports, right? So when we see these two different splits, so this is where like which tool can be exactly matched to the SAP BO report. So most of the time, as I mentioned, right, most of the reports will fit into pixel perfect report, but you need to see whether you can convince the business users and ask them to use the desktop version. So when you go to desktop version, you have to adjust with whatever features that are supported in Power BI desktop. So as I said, like we don't have option to have the custom layouts, custom table formats for the table or matrix visuals. But yeah, that's where you have to spend time with business and you need to have multiple discussions because the recommendation is always try to use Power BI desktop reports than the paginated reports. Paginated reports, again, it's kind of a legacy platform. So if you are worked with SSRS reports, SQL Server reporting services, so this is the modernized version of SSRS, basically an upgraded version of SSRS, so which are hosted in the Power BI premium capacity, right? So but still if user wants to see the exact functionality, exact layout, then yes, we don't have any other option. So we need to go with Power BI report builder. So with that you can create custom layouts, export to Excel, and the subscriptions. You can create a subscriptions. As part of the subscription, business users can extract the data through Excel, PDF, or different formats. And when you go to desktop, you have the slicers, pages, and the interactivities are there. So if you see the mapping SAP BO feature to Power BI, the features which we discussed earlier, like sections, multi-page, input control, the subscriptions, right? So if you take section, so sections is something like if you have the invoice, right? So invoice kind of a report. So if you have multiple customers, so basically in SAP BO you can create one layout, right? And with section, the same invoice will be splitted out with the same layout for the different customers. So when they try to export to PDF, they will see all the invoices, invoices for each customers one by one. So that is called section. But in Power BI desktop we don't have a section, but you have to, and again building the invoice kind of a layout, again difficult in desktop. So that's where all of these recommendations are coming from Power BI report builder. So when you have these features in place, then always use paginated report. So in paginated report you have a concept called list. So with that you can achieve the sections. Let me quickly show you the demo. So before that, let me show you the SAP BO screens. So if you see here, so this is the query panel. So when you connect to the web intelligence, when you connect to the universe, so using this query panel you can drag and drop what fields that you need for the report. So here, just for an example, connected to my test, UNX is nothing but universe, and when you drag and drop, it is going to create a SQL file, and under query filter you are going to create a parameter. So either a parameter or hot filters that can be defined under query filters. and you have whenever you run the report, so this is how the parameter will pop up, the prompts. So here user will be specifying the values, so some of them are mandatory, some of them are optional. So based on that, user will select the values for the each parameters, and when they click OK, it will be the underlying query, underlying SQL script will be filtered with based on the user selection, and that query will be run against the underlying database. And this is a report, Webby report. So in Web Intelligence, you have option to create multiple pages. So one page can have this visual and this set of visuals, and another page can be a different set of visuals. And if you see the left hand side, this is called input control. So let me explain what is input control now. So you see the parameter, right? So the parameters is to restrict the data within the database layer itself, whereas this input control, once you extracted the data, once the query produce the results, produce the data, on top of that, if you want to do further filters, that is called input control. So you can call this as report filters, visual filters, or page level filters in Power BI. So basically you are going to apply one more filter on top of the extracted data. So in SAP BO, once your query produce the results, that result will be stored in a cache, right? So once the results are in a cache, you can play around this input controls. You can easily filter down the data, either filter down the year or state or the lines. And you can choose any direction. When I say direction, you can directly filter the state. You can directly filter the year. So based on the selection, all other input controls will be filtered down for that specific value, right? So it will be instantly, it will be super fast, because these filters will be applying on the cache results. So whenever we do input control selections, the results will be quicker, but whenever the initial load happens, once the parameters are placed, it will be taking time, again based on the performance of the database, and again based on the calculations, based on the universe logics. So this will take time, but changing the values on the input control will be super fast. So this is some of the screens of SAP BO. Okay, let's go back to the Power BI. So I showed how to create the data set. So you can connect the data set here. You can call the Power BI data set. So this will be connected from the Power BI service, and you can make use of these pages, and you can make use of these visuals to create a report, and you can publish it to Power BI workspaces. So that's how Power BI works, but I'm going to target the page needed reports, because that's where you can match all the SAP BO functionalities. So let me start with a quick page needed report. So if you see here, this icon denotes this is the Power BI desktop based reports, or the interactive reports. This icon is nothing but Power BI page needed reports. So all of these features, all of the SAP BO features will directly fit into the page needed report. So I'm going to talk about page needed report hereafter, right? So if you see the sample report, so this page needed report is exactly same as the SAP BO Web Intelligence report. So whenever you run the report, the query will be run against the underlying database or data sources. So here we can build the report with a simple table or a custom layouts with different expressions, right? Here this is a simple table, and this is totally different than the Power BI desktop report. In Power BI desktop, you have option to create multiple pages here. Each page can have different visuals, whereas here we don't have that concept. So if you have data, if you have more amount of data, so you can see everything here in one page, and you can go to next page. It will show the next set of data for the same table. So if you see here, since there are around 60,000 records, so it is the whole data is spreaded into this many pages, right? So this is called pagination. Actually, it is distributed to multiple pages, not these kind of pages, not these pages, right? and you can create a parameter. Let me quickly show you how the parameter looks in paginated report. So I'll show you how I design this report. So here you can see, so whenever we open the report, so it is coming, it is showing a parameter in case if you defined. So you need to define, or you need to choose the value for the parameters, then only you can run the report. So when you click view report, so it will consider whatever we selected as a value, and that will be sent back to the query. Only those results will be displayed as a visual result. Let me quickly show you how I built. Maybe let me start from the order. So let's start this option, multiple pages. So if you choose SAP Web Intelligence, as I mentioned, multi-page is available. If you choose Power BI Desktop, you have multi-page is available. But in case if you go with paginated report, because of the custom layouts and then the subscriptions, export requirements, then you don't have the multi-page option. So but you have a workaround. So let me quickly show you that report. So if you see this modern report, again it is a paginated report. So if business user or the SAP BO Web Intelligence report has 3 tabs, in the sense like, for example, first page is all page, and then product page, and then sales market. So you can create like a button here in paginated report, and you can allow users to click the button. So when they click the next button, it is going to show the visuals which are created for that particular page. So again, this is not a pre-built function. Right? Again, it is a page navigation only. We are just making use of the bookmark and then action to handle this. Basically, it is a simple paginated report. With the help of bookmark, we are trying to make similar to different pages. Right? So let me quickly show you. So if you see this, this is the report builder, Power BI report builder. So using this tool, we are going to create the paginated reports. So here we have a concept called data source and then data sets. So we have an option to connect to the underlying data source, for example SQL Server, Oracle or Teradata, but I would not recommend you to choose this. In case if SAP BO reports are referring data from SQL Server, what you can do, you just create the Power BI data set with all the tables that are used in the SQL Server or views, create a data set and create a relationship and publish this into Power BI workspace. So once you published, if you right click on the data source on the report builder, you can see add Power BI dataset connection. So which means you can use Power BI dataset as a source for this report builder reports. So that's how I connected this. So here you can see this is the dataset, and under data source, under this dataset you can create a number of datasets. So probably one visual for one dataset. So again, it depends on the requirement. If you see this, I just repeated the sections, header and then these tabs, because to achieve this functionality we need to replicate this into multiple times. So if it is a 3 tab, so I have repeated 3 times, the header is repeated 3 times, and these are just text boxes. And if you see the properties, so this section, so I have just grouped them, all of these individual components, like the logo, the header, title and these text boxes, and then I set the bookmark as h1. If you see this grouping, bookmark as h2, and this grouping, bookmark as h3. So once you set the bookmark, if I right click on this text box properties, you see an action called you see an option called action. You can see go to bookmark. When I say go to bookmark, I need to choose the bookmark. So I just selected h2 is nothing but this section. So whenever user clicks, it will automatically navigating to this section. So that's how this functionality is working. If I click this product, it will take you to the bookmark h2, so which is nothing but this section. So it will start show the below visuals, and then this is h3. So when user clicks h3, so when I click sales market, it will take you to the H3 bookmark. So under H3 bookmark, if you defined any visuals, that will be displayed. So that's how I've designed this report. I'll be sharing all of these to the GitHub repository, so you can see how this has been configured, and if you have the similar requirement, you can make use of this. And then let's talk about the next option. Let's talk about the sections. Right, so as I mentioned, sections is kind of a invoice, right? So we have a concept called a list in Power BI report. So this is called a list. So the list is based on the product category name. If you have multiple product category name, this list will be repeated for each product category. So within the list, you can have different components like text boxes, tables, visuals, right? Once you have defined with the list option, right? So let me show you how the result would be. Like see here, I have created a parameter, so we can allow users to choose the parameter, and then when user clicks view report, only these results will be considered in the filter statement. You can see home appliance is one of the product category name, and this is the total sales for that home appliance, and this is the data. If I go to next page, it will show a different product category name and different total for that category. Here you can see audio, and this is the different total, and this is the different line items. So using list, you can achieve the sections. And let me quickly check. So export to Excel. So we talked about the modern report with bookmark and button, right? So if you export SAP BO report, right, if you have multiple pages, each page result will be exported into a single sheet in the Excel workbook. So to achieve that, you can design in this way, but to satisfy the exporting requirement, you need to configure like just choose that whole visual, or you can, if you have multiple visuals under one section, you can group them through a rectangle, and you can see a page name. So you can define the page name like this, and again for this is a page name, and for this visual, this is just one visual. So you can let me choose, you can set the page name as whatever you need. So whenever you try to export, so all of these individual tabs will be exported as individual sheets in a single workbook. So that's how you can easily achieve the exact exporting requirement. Here you can see in paginated reports. And then let me quickly talk about, so the merge dimensions is not something like in case if you have multiple queries in SAP BO, right? So if you want to get the fields from multiple queries into a single visual, then you have to use merge dimension in SAP BO. So here in Power BI paginated report, so we have a concept called lookup set. If you go to expressions, you will see a lookup set option. Here you can see lookup set. So this lookup set will help you to connect two different data sets and get the fields from these data sets. But I would not recommend you to use lookup set. Instead, see the possibilities to combine the query into a single data set. And then yeah, let's talk about the input control, right? So that's one final thing I need to show you. So input control, as I mentioned, right, so it is just a filter on top of the results that we got from the database. So I have created one report. Let me quickly show you. So here I have created a report with multiple parameters, but you don't have a flexibility to choose the parameter, because it is using a concept called cascading. In BO report, you can go to any input control. If you filter one value, all other input controls will be filtered for that specific value. So we don't have that concept here. In case if you allow to choose any parameter initially, right, so whatever you selected as a color, that will not be filtered the category or class name. So it is always going to be one direction. So based on this set of selection, you are going to see the available list of product categories. and based on this selection you are going to see the available list of colors. So it is always going to be one direction. So this is one of the major issue in my projects. So one of the customer is not convinced with this option. They were looking exactly same the SAP BO input controls. So that's where we provided a solution with the help of Power BI desktop report. Again, yes, it is a Power BI desktop report, but you have a concept called paginated report visual. So which means I have designed that report through the report builder, and I just come to the Power BI desktop. I can choose this, so paginated report. So when I choose, it will ask me to connect to a report, the paginated report that we deployed. So basically this report, and you need to sign in with your credentials, go to connect report, and you're going to choose the report that you want to embed here. This is the report, and set parameter. So you know this report contains these 4 parameters, so this will pop up here. So here you have to drag and drop the fields, for example color name. So once you drag and drop, you can match or map the fields to the parameter. So that's how you can easily drag and drop the fields from product category, subcategory, and you can map the parameters here. So once you mapped, it will show something like this. So here you can see I have drag and drop the fields, and once you drag and drop, the report start run, and by default it will take all the values from all of these fields. So when I say all the values, so initially it will be all the selected values. So to control that, to achieve the input control in SAP BO, you can add those fields as a slicers here in Power BI desktop. So these slicers will exactly equivalent to the SAP BO input controls. So you can filter in any order. If you just filter a black, it is going to filter down these values, and all these values. So which means we are good with the input control concepts, but we need to see the paginated report layout. So here you can choose any value, and once you have selected it, let me choose first again. So based on this selection, let me choose some of them. Okay, it might be expired. Let me add quickly paginated report, connect, and then input controls, set parameter, color name. Okay, so this connection is out. Quickly refresh. Okay, this I have opened long back. Let me quickly open a new report. So you need to choose this Power BI data set. So this through this we are going to choose the deployed Power BI data set, the Contosa sales, create. So this will load. So this is going to create a live connection to the Power BI data set. So once you see all the tables are available here, you can start the paginated report visual, connect to the report. I already signed in, so that's the reason it is showing the list of reports, available reports. SAP BO input control, set parameter. So here we need to see what are the parameters are used. One is color name, then what is this dim product subcategory, product name. So English product subcategory. So here this is the one subcategory name, and then this is the name, product category name, and then what else we have, class name. So class name is again here. So once I drag and drop, you will see now this is enabled. I can choose the values, need to match it here, color name to color name, class name. So once I matched, I can see report. So this will start run. So as I said, by default it will take all the values from all of these fields. So you can see it will be around 60,000 records. Basically it is trying to show all the records. Now we need to add the fields, for example this as a slicer. So like that we can add all of these 4 parameters as a slicer. Now if I select this, so now I can click apply changes. So now this report will show only for this economy. Like that you can have all of these fields added as a slicer. So with that you can match the input controls. These slicers is nothing but input controls, so you can choose whatever values for the slicers. Once all you are selected, you can just click apply changes. The report will show only for the selected values. So and again if you are delivering a report to the end users, right, you can still use the interactive reports on the multiple pages, and one of the page can be a paginated report. So with that user can see everything in a single report instead of navigating to multiple reports. And users can extract the report, export the report from here itself. So you have a export option, they can choose this. And by the way, where the export requirement on the Power BI desktop has a limitation. So wherever you see a export requirement, the subscription, so you always try to use the paginated reports. And here you have the subscribe option. So when you subscribe, it will allow you to choose the format like Excel, PDF. So once you selected, the extract will be delivered as an email. Right, we don't have an option to deliver the report into a network drive or local drive. So by default Power BI just has only the email option. And the another concept, like I mentioned, like SAP BO supports embedding the report visual report into a email body. Right, so we don't have that feature available. So we have to make use of the Power BI REST APIs. So this is a script, PowerShell script, which is calling the Power BI REST APIs. Right, you can export the report into Word document and then convert that Word document into a HTML, and you can place that HTML into a body of the email. So I will leave this script in the GitHub. You can make use of this script in case if you have that requirement. So finally just reaching to the last few slides. So other considerations in case if you are handling slow performing databases like Teradata, so which is obviously going to hit the performance of the report. Either the dataset refresh timing will be more, if it is a direct query, the report will be slow. So you can consider data flow. So data flow will help you to extract the data and store it into Azure Data Lake Store Gen 2. From there you can start use those data flows into a data sets. And then you can think of using Power BI report server in case if you have for the subscription to the network drive. We have that functionality available in report server. And you can use Power Automate in case if you have the custom subscription requirement, like exporting the report and storing into the SharePoint folder or storing into the local drive. You can think of either a PowerShell script or a Power Automate. And this is a link for the metadata extract in case if you want to see the audit log, the list of artifacts available in SAP BO to plan yourself or to identify the number of reports. Number of reports are really used by the business users. Yeah, that's where you can use this metadata extract. And these are the resources. I have covered most of the paginated report functionality in my previous year's session with the Data Platform Summit. So if you are a member, you should have the recordings, right? So you can check off this modernized Power BI paginated reports. I think it should be available also in the YouTube, but I'm not sure. Just check it once. And you can see my channel where I have a dedicated playlist called Power BI paginated reports. You can check more of the Power BI paginated report functionalities. And this is the GitHub page, Hariharan /Power BI, github.com. So you can search for this GitHub page, Hariharan /Power BI. So you will find the artifacts related to this session, the demos that I covered. Everything will be there in this GitHub. and also some of the other resource links like Power BI page and reports and a day, Power BI tips and tricks in my blog. And if you want to reach me for any clarifications or any queries related to Power BI or Power BI page and reports or any migration projects, you can make use of these social contact handles, and you can reach me anytime. Special thanks to Microsoft for supporting this whole summit, and special thanks to again to Data Platform team for their wonderful effort. Thank you everyone. Please provide your feedback about DPS 2022 and you will get a chance to win the prizes. Thanks again.